I don't know what number ReAwaken event that this is, but we've been doing these since I think June or July of 2021. The first one was in Tampa, Florida. I think we had some 12,000 people at that one. Now every one since then, we've averaged maybe between 3,500 and 6,000 people. So these are great events to come to because they're it obviously there's a whole community surrounding whole community surrounding things that the American people know that are really affecting this country in terms of the issues that we see play out in on your social media feeds and certainly in the legacy media. I mean, look, you have to still watch some of the legacy media, unfortunately, because it's like you want to understand what the enemy is saying. So so great events so far. I mean, a lot of great media here, and I'm really here to talk about Flynn movie, which we actually we played it Thursday afternoon to an audience of, I don't know, maybe there's maybe a few hundred people in the audience, but to me it's actually amazing. When Ivan Reichlin was on stage yesterday, how many people raised their hands and said that they hadn't watched it yet. So It's a very powerful film. We spend a lot of time really putting this together. Scott Wiper, who's walking around here somewhere, he was our producer, and to take more than 100 hours worth of interviews and condense that into like a 2-hour film was nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah, I know. I saw it for the first time that Thursday actually, and I was just blown away how not only informative it was, but how touching it was for people. I didn't really know how the depth to which it affects the family. Yeah. So can you speak to that a little bit for people to know?
Yeah, 100%. So I sat down for about 6.5 hours worth of interviews for this movie, and I mean, look, you pour your heart out when it comes to the things that obviously happened during the time frame that we really wanted to kind of showcase this film in. And so I talk about a lot of personal issues. I mean, specifically PTSD, suicide, depression, and I actually didn't see the final product until April 5th when we did the premiere in Venice, Florida. So now I've seen the movie. I mean, probably 25 times, and every single time I get emotional, at various parts of it. But I will tell you, what I'm hoping, to kind of project, or I guess push from this movie is that it's okay to allow yourself to be vulnerable when it comes to things that affect you personally. I mean, it's like vulnerability is not necessarily a weakness. It actually takes incredible strength to be vulnerable about things that I mean, probably 95% of the country, or really around the world, like you either have dealt with a mental health issue or somebody who's dealt with a mental health issue. So I guess the feedback that I've been receiving, just from kind of after the different premieres. I mean, I've had a lot of people that have just come up to me and just wanted to give me a hug, and a lot of people crying, like people telling me that, and they just had a son, commit suicide, like in a couple of weeks prior to seeing the film, and it's like that's such a humbling thing for people to be open about and tell me that, like, I saw you on the movie, and you've inspired me. Like, I appreciate your courage to talk about this stuff, because a lot of people that deal with those mental health issues, it's like they may seem like they're all well and good, and then the next thing you know, they're gone.
That's it. 100% right. Yeah, I work with Ascent Nutrition, and he got into what he's doing because his father committed suicide, and he didn't realize how bad the problem is. And frankly, I didn't realize how bad the problem is. So nutrition can be really important. What would you suggest people can do to deal with problems like that?
Well, I mean, one of the things you just said, is so important. Nutrition. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm the beacon of health, but I do work out at least 3 or 4 times a week. I mean, physical fitness is probably for me the number one thing that has allowed me to process some of the things that affected mentally. Right? It's like, you're having a bad day, go for a 20-minute walk, or you're having a bad day, just go lift for a while. I mean, like, whatever it is, the endorphins that are released in the brain that help you to kind of get that positive, that happy energy back. Certainly those two things. So the physical fitness, and certainly eating better, but also again, like I'm a part of a couple men's groups in Brighteon, Florida, and I think that there's a lot of power in community, and like, guys, like, you shouldn't be afraid to talk about these things, because, again, I guarantee you start opening up to somebody, and they've dealt with that same issue, or they know somebody, and there's healing in that discussion.
100%. Yeah, vulnerability is so underrated. I was chairing a charity a few years ago, and I was shocked to discover how many people feel isolated from each other, especially men. You know, we grew up in this culture where men are supposed to be rough, tough, and they never cry and all this, and that's total nonsense, you know what I mean? So, last question. We have a massive alternative media that's grown out of this. I work with We the Media. I'm from Vigilant News, 2 alternative media outfits. What do you think the alternative media is doing right, and what do you think it's doing wrong? How can it improve?
Well, one of the things I will tell you, and you know, maybe a criticism of it. I mean, and look, it's tough to criticize this, but you know, because the world of citizen journalism has exploded. There's so many, you know, there's so many out there, right? So there's a lot of different, you know, kind of silos out there in terms of where information is coming from now. And I get it. Like, everybody wants to, you know, build their platforms. They want to grow their audiences, and that's all well and good. But it's like, you know, I would just say, like, you know, stay true to who you are, because you don't want to fall into the world of what the legacy media did in terms of, I want to be first, to report on the issue, and I don't care if I get it wrong, but as long as I'm first, the eyeballs are hitting me first. So it's the, you know, the kind of the proverbial, like, you mean, you want to be like one of those, like, you know, reporters, you know, on the front line, and you want to be the first to report stuff, but I mean, get it right and do it with authenticity. Be true to yourself, and just know that, you know, hey, if, you know, even if you're not the first person reporter, if you're another source. I mean, one of I'm a big fan of Sarah Carter, although I wish she would, you know, not be a contributor for Fox News anymore. But she told me a long time ago that you know, anything that she ever puts out, she has to source it by at least 3 different sources. Right. You know, as opposed to, she could be one of those that just throws stuff out there, you know, on her social media feeds and hopes that it sticks, or hopes that she doesn't have to, like, retract it in 24 to 48 hours. So, but the positivity about, you know, citizen journalism is that, you know, we are now the mainstream media. Okay, so if you ever talk to somebody about, like, ABC or Fox News or MSNBC, if they say the word, if they label them as mainstream media, it's like, actually no, they're the Mockingbird legacy fake news media. Right. That's, you know, I mean, labels are important. I mean, they just are. I mean, you know, people get labeled for a variety of reasons. So they're the legacy fake news, Mockingbird media, whatever combination you want to use. The citizen journalism world is the mainstream media, because this is where people are flocking to for, you know, again, for people who are authentic in what they do and how they report.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Discernment is still big. Critical thinking is still
discernment,
big.
That's the key word.
Yeah, I've written several articles on discernment. It's just shocking how much they've taken that out from us, both spiritually and intellectually. We need that to think critically. All right, last question this time. If your father was tapped on the shoulder for VP, what would your reaction be?
I would think that would be Trump's one of Trump's best decisions that he could possibly make. I think if he goes with his gut, I think that, I mean, look, we need wartime individuals going into this next administration, and Trump needs a wartime general, and in a capacity that could absolutely help him dismantle some of these agencies. And I hope that some of these agencies are listening to this right now, because I've also been public on my X feed that, I mean, you got a guy like Andy McKay the other day on MSNBC or CNN, one of the two, you know, talking about, like, if Trump gets reelected, that he's gonna go after some of these guys in the FBI, and then these guys are gonna, you know, they're gonna move out of the country. Well, it's like, you know what? If you didn't do anything wrong, you have no reason to want to leave the country. Right. All right. And these guys better believe that retribution is coming. Because it has to, because the American people are sick and tired of the lack of accountability when it comes to these guys who just think that they have every ability and every reason to think that they can get away with some of the things that we're seeing play out in the legal system and in our economic system. I mean, it's sickening, and we could talk about that another day.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thank you so much.
You got
I really appreciate everything you're doing.
You got it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.